Aston Villa then through to the next round. Of course, this game was live and exclusive on ESPN+. Jurgen Klinsmann was part of that coverage and not impressed with Thomas Frank's Spurs performance.
You have that chance to get back into your flow in a certain way with an FA Cup tie at home against Aston Villa. You cannot come up with a first half like they did today. And then rescuing it just in the second half is just simply not enough. I mean, I was pleased, they created more. They had moments, where they could even have it a tie at the end. But it's not enough. There was not enough desperation, urgency, aggressiveness that you would need in order to get through an FA Cup tie, which is always, every game in an FA Cup is a final. It's knockout, and you have to be nasty. You have to be hugely aggressive. You have to kind of dictate the level of aggression on the field, and they missed that completely in the first half, and they did better second half, but it's not enough. You cannot get out of such a prestigious competition in that way.
Jurgen Klinsmann, by the way, no Craig Burley. This is a man who sees every glass half full, yet pulling no punches there. Just shows how frustrated he is with Spurs, and indeed I think it sums up the feelings of the Spurs fans at the moment.
And they have every right to do so. I mean, you could see in the first half what the setup was. It was get behind the ball. The only thing is, when you do that, there has to be some sort of confrontation eventually. Somebody has to step towards the ball, and then when whoever's in charge of that, everybody fills in behind. Spurs didn't do that. They stayed off and stepped off. So regardless of how many men you get behind the ball, you still have to do the basics defensively, and they didn't do it. And the first goal absolutely showed you the problem. Right through the pipe, nobody moving, nobody closing, and all of a sudden you go in at half-time and you're 2-0 down.
How condescending, how low have you got, Jules, when you've got people at the end of the game going, well, at least they tried in the second half?
Yeah, I think it's terrible, really. And I know we can look at the squad and say there's a lack of creativity. For sure, there's probably a lack of quality in the squad. No problem. However, I'm sorry, but Thomas Frank has been in charge since July the 1st. We are now January the 10th. He still doesn't know what his best 11 is. Injuries or not injuries, it doesn't matter. He keeps chopping and changing all the time. There's no intentions with the ball. There's nothing. I can't believe that we sat here again and it's the same. Nothing with the ball in that first half. Jurgen is right. How can you come out in the FA Cup at home, considering the bad run of result that you're on right now? I think it's 2 wins in 10 in all competitions, something like that. And put up that kind of performance. I think he shows you that Thomas Frank cannot get those players on his side. He cannot get the fans on his side either. And it's not the first time that we see, okay, maybe glimpses of what they can do, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there. But overall, over 90 minutes, it's so poor, it's so disappointing, and he's the one to blame. The players for sure have their part of responsibilities, the squad structure and bit for sure. But at the end of the day, this is still a better squad than the result that they're having right now, and that's on him.
Is he going to make the end of the month, Jules?
I think he will, and I guess the only positive in a way for Thomas Frank and Spurs is that Vinay Venkatesham, who is the CEO right now, who was the CEO of Arsenal, who was there when Mikel Arteta arrived. He actually recruited Mikel Arteta. And when things didn't go well at the beginning for Arteta, I'm not saying that Thomas Frank is as good as Arteta and can take this club as far as Arteta has taken Arsenal. However, Vinay was patient with Arteta, and I think he will show more patience for Thomas Frank. That patience is not going to be forever, though. And I think Thomas Frank has to very quickly try to turn things over by recruiting more players in January, and they're working on it. But yet, it's 10 days in, and they've got no one apart from that young left back from Santos Sousa who should come. But that's not the answer. That's not the solution either. So they will be patient. But Thomas Frank has to find something that he hasn't found yet to make sure that to try to convince Vinay Venkatesham, the owners, and the fans, and the players, more importantly, that he's still the right guy for the job.
The big problem is the results are terrible and the football's terrible as well.
So what he has to do is look at that second half. Because there's no question, that's their best half of football since he got there. So he has to look at it and say, right, what did we do that we can replicate the next time we step on the field? And you can't turn around and say, well, it doesn't count because it was against Wolves or West Ham or a championship team. It was against a proper team. It was against Villa. They put them under severe pressure.
It was against a team that were 2-0 up, though. Does that not make a difference?
Well, it sort of helps Spurs in some ways because you're always going to go out in the second half and not hold on to what you have, but be a little bit more safer than you were in the first half. But at the end of the day, it's still Aston Villa, the team that's sitting, what, third in the league? So every single thing, he has to figure out what they did well. How do I replicate that? Because everything else pretty much they've done all season has been poor. Other than sometimes they've defended well, because you can't really say they've done well going forward in many games, but they did in this second half, and it was a completely different vibe, completely different game. So if I'm Thomas Frank, I'm figuring out what did we do in this second half that we can replicate, and then we can start building again.
If you're Villa, surely FA Cup is your main priority, isn't it, Jules? I understand the Europa League, Unai Emery's connection with that competition. But if I'm a Villa fan, wouldn't it be great to get to Wembley and win the FA Cup in May?
From a fan's point of view, probably you're right. They were in the semi-final last season. We were there. They were so disappointed in that semi-final against Palace, outplayed completely by the system tactically that Glasner employed, for sure. From a club's point of view, the Champions League, or finishing top 4, top 5, because 5th place is going to take you to the Champions League, is by far the priority here. And I know fans, players, Emery, ideally a trophy, lifting that FA Cup, having the bus parade and everything you want is wonderful. It's a great experience, great something to achieve in your career. But from a club point of view, right now, they need that Champions League money so badly. They can't, again, settle for Europa League or Conference League. They need the Champions League. They need the money of the Champions League. And for them, finishing in that top 5 is really indispensable. Then, of course, if you can go find the Europa League, that would be wonderful. If you can go back with the FA Cup again, go find the FA Cup like last year, but just a step further or two and win it, great, no problem. But that can't take them away from the idea that finishing in the top Champions League places is by far the most important financially for the club.
We're Villa fans. Because everything Joe said there is spot on. You know, if you're involved at Villa, if you're a managing director, whatever you are, the board, that's what you're thinking. But if you're a fan, you're thinking, well, Europa League, FA Cup.
Yeah.
You're stuck.
You want trophies. That's why you follow. And there's surely players want trophies as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be Unai Emery's problem as well. You know, every single player wants to win the FA Cup. Mm-hmm. I mean, it has lost a bit of its bluster in the last few years, but what we saw in this third round, this has been the best third round for a long, long time. So yeah, as a player, if you turn up to the next round and Rodgers, for example, isn't playing, you're thinking, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Are we really wanting to win this or not?